Then, before we get started, I have to have a little Mexico Coke. Well, that's good. Now then, well, good evening to everybody. Today, a couple of 3 or 4 things I'd like to go over. And, excuse me, so remember this. My girls had asked me, said, Dad, why don't you give us, me and them, a little history of your drag racing career. I had motorcycle drag racing and car drag racing career. And tell us a little bit how you, the different stages that you were, how you came from, say, 17 seconds to down to where that, you know, some of the fastest times you ever run. And I said, well, I think I can recollect most of that. Yeah. Now there's a time lapse on them. So let's begin with I started with the cars. And I remember asking my dad, I said, Papa, I'd like to make a little money, you know, a little extra spending money, because on the farm, son, you didn't have none on the farm, and you knew better to ask for any. Can you imagine? You going up to my dad and saying, Papa, I need about 50 for the weekend, you know, have a little fun. He'd say, boy's your head okay? You must have fell and hit it on something. We didn't have no money like that. Says, I'll tell you what it can do. He knew this guy, Earl Clevenger was his name. And he lived in the community there where I did. It wasn't a community, it was just in the countryside. Now, Earl run a chicken, we'll call it a chicken business. And that he'd bring chickens to your chicken house into little day olds, you know, just hatched, and put them in under your brooders for them so you could, you know, have not too many of them die off on you. And up to a certain point, he'd manage them for you, and then you took over and you managed them until you got them ready to go to market. Now, he'd haul them to market for you. Well, that's where we came in. We meaning the chicken catchers. And how about that for a career? So there's 13 of us in this crew, and we averaged about anywhere from 5 to 20,000 chickens a night. 5,500 would go on a truck. There'd be one truckload. Now, you got $5 clear money. Got paid under the table, $5, and that's way back. I mean, that's way back. And you got paid every day, which was, that was great. I mean, some weeks I'd make $40 or $50 clear money. It's like, dang, that's great. But it's harder on your sleeping habits, because you wouldn't get in until about 2 or 3 o'clock. My mom, some mornings I'd get in just when my mom was getting up to start a fire on the stove to cook breakfast. She'd say, son, you're young and strong, but this stuff will kill you now. I said, I'm just gonna do it for a while, make some money, fix up the old car, you know. I had a truck at the time. I said, all right. So I had a 49 Chevrolet pickup, and it was a 5-window. But at that time, you know, 5-window versus say a 3 wasn't no big deal. It just was, he just happened upon them things. The old farmer owned this one here, and I bought it from him. And it was okay. You could, after a while, it was a 3 on a tree thing, you know. And he'd changed gears enough times and it's pretty loose. And you could speed shift it from low into second gear, you know. It was low up into second and down into high gear. And I remember one time I had an opportunity, a bunch of us went out. They had a drag strip out there called Asheville, Hendersonville Dragway. And it was going to build a big drag strip, but the city council, they didn't want nothing to do with that. You know, it's going to be too many people killed, and they just didn't go along with that. So they just killed that idea. But we had the drag strip for a while. And I ran that truck, and it was like 1750 or 1760. And you know, when you're just out, a few of the guys around you, and you're speed shifting it, you think, man, this thing's fast. You could just about outrun it on foot. Well, anyway, then this guy, Lenny Robinson, he said, I'll make you a split manifold. And he said he'd really pep that thing up. So what he would do, he'd take the manifold on that little 6-cylinder, cut it in 2, and braze the plate over the end of it, and put you twin exhausts coming out of the thing. Now it sounded good, but I don't know if it made it any faster. I never did run that split manifold on it. And it was, oh, you can hear it coming on the thing. But it was a neat sound. And so I caught chickens for a long time, and you could buy I'd go buy parts for cash. I mean, it was, whew. And I had then I traded that truck and got a 54 Ford 6-cylinder, straight drive, you know. Well, it ran it ran like a 1695, which for a 6-cylinder, and it's a pretty heavy car, it was okay. I mean, not going to set the place on fire with that. And then come the action part. I had an opportunity. My dad was telling me that. He said, this guy we knew not too awfully far from the house said he's got, well, and here's how my dad said it. He's got one of them there 55 Chevrolets that he wants to sell real bad. And I said, wow, that's what I've been wanting. Well, the motor wasn't real good in it, but these guys were telling me about, there in the community was telling me about this one fella's having to sell his 327 because it was so fast, it's gonna get him in trouble. That big tall tail, you know. So I had enough money to buy the car. I think it was like $250 for the car, and I gave either $90 or $100 for the engine and transmission out of the other 55. Well, my brother-in-law Keith helped me put it in one weekend. Now that was, you can just say it in a statement, but boy, what a task. Well, when we got it in, I mean, it did run spectacular. That car there ran in the high 16s, which for that era, and for that it's a little 265, but I was pleased with it. And then I had, it got close to and get out of high school, and you decide, okay, what are we gonna do? I mean, you folks are saying, okay, what are you gonna do? You're going on to school, what are you gonna do? Well, the government kind of helps you make your mind up on things, because then the draft was legal. Or I say legal, it's just part of the law. Well, I knew that my number was up, because you get this little number in the mail, you know, your number's so-and-so, and here, we're drawing up to this number, but your number is here. And simply said, you're safe for just a little while, but not too long. Well, we had a lot of skirmishes going on around the world, and you know the ones I'm talking about. So I told my folks, I said, you know, I think I'm just going to join the service. All right. So my dad was he had been in the Navy for his action, and most of his brothers had been in the Navy. Tragic stories in there. Two of them got shot down at sea in a boat, two of his brothers. Another one got shot down in another boat at sea, or sunk, and they quickly brought him to shore. Said, no, we're not going to ruin his whole family with that. So he was in the war at sea on a, I don't know if they called it a destroyer or whatever that it was. Well, they brought him back stateside. Said, no, we can't have that. So, well, anyway, when I said, well, I think I'm gonna go in the Air Force. They said, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. So this guy was going to join with me, kind of the buddy system. And we got down, we had to go to Asheville, and you got your tickets, your bus tickets to go down to Charlotte, and that's where you signed up and got your haircut and all this kiss, you know, and a few other things. Well, we got to Charlotte, and then it was you take your plane ride down to San Antonio. Oh, well. The guy's going to got cold feet, and he said, I can't do it. He said, let's go back and think about it. And I said, I didn't thought I'm going to. They're getting ready to draft me, but I'm out of here. So I did. I went on. Well, that was, you know, the service life. I spent 8 years in there, and I have nothing bad to say about it. It's a wonderful career. It's just fantastic. Our military is just second to none. Well, anyway, so while in there, each base had it's kind of like where your airmen and NCO had it's like a garage where you can rent tools. I mean, the Air Force owned them all, but you could rent them, and it was a pretty good size, big outfit, you know, and all kinds of stuff. They had engine hoist and all like that. Well, I worked on different cars. I had a 60 model Ford in there that got down to, we had it down into the low 15s and high 14s, and stuff still working on down. But we had fun, just the camaraderie of it. But what I volunteered for in that service was, I volunteered for what to call it's a worldwide duty. And I didn't know exactly what it meant when I done it, And it's got a worldwide status. Oh, it's the shots you got for that. Oh man. But what it involved was you're on duty, you're technically on duty all the time, except when you take leave. And you have to keep your bag packed, because when you get notification that you got orders that you're having to leave that base, you got 24 hours, have everything packed up of yours, have your bird ready to go, because you're going to get in transition and go to the next base with your bird, or next whatever the hot spot around the world is. And that was quite a career. I got to go all over the world with that stuff. And then when after a while, it came up and I got these orders, and it had an APO number on it, which is like I think it's kind of like an aerial post office or something, where you really don't know where it's going, but you hear about it enough and you know what it is. Well, my mom was like, it's that Vietnam thing, isn't it? And I said, I don't know exactly. Now I was I didn't have 100% proof that it was, so it's kind of, you're messing around with the truth there. And I said, I'm not real sure, Mom, but I said, chances are it is. Oh no, she said, oh no. Well, anyway, it was. Well, I spent a couple of years there, then got back and everything was fine. And too young and stupid to know you could have got killed there in a heartbeat, because it just, you're out of control. Well, anyway, so got back. Well, when I got back, the base I came to first was a training base in Colorado. And it was a training base for cadets. Well, they had this Airman NCO workshop. I wouldn't call it a workshop. It's kind of like it's your garage, if you will. And that thing was huge. Had all kind of tools, specialty tools. Well, I got me another car and started on that again. And then you don't have a lot of money in the service. So I was working part-time at a service station downtown, and he'd let me work on my car there some. And he says to me, his name was Vern Laurer. He said, why don't you build your motorcycle? He said, if you want to go fast, he said, you can go fast, cheap. And I said, sounds a little too good to be true. And he said, no. So I went and bought a Triumph motorcycle, Triumph Bonneville. And it was pretty quick. I mean, the whole thing would run in the 15-second bracket. And you do a few things to it, and you get down to 14s. But still, unless you're riding a bicycle with a engine on it, and you get over that fear after a while, but it's still a fear. Well, I bought a Honda, and I was with a Honda now, 4-cylinder, 4 exhausts, 4 carburetors, and that thing ran good. It was a pushrod engine, and it got down you're at the low 14s, high 13s now, and that will get you hurt. It'll get you hurt. I mean, you come up on stuff pretty quick. Then a friend of mine told me, he says, I've been looking at some of the motorcycle magazines, and he said, Cal has got this scooter coming. Said it's a 900, 900 cc. Said it's overhead camera, and it's a 4-cylinder, 4 carburetors and all, and said you can modify this thing, and said you can get down to a 9-second bike. And it was like, really? That's me, man. So I laid off the cars a little while because it was so expensive on parts, and got to checking on some parts for this motorcycle, and the stuff, it wasn't, relatively speaking, it wasn't bad. So I bought a Kirker header, got a different sprocket for the rear, got a Sabaki chain, different sprocket for the front, changed all that stuff around, got new aluminum wheels for it, and several things, different forks for the front end on it, and it had changed the cams on it, changed the chains and everything. Then when they got it all done, oh my, that thing was fast. It was like it's trying to tear you off of there. Oh my. So we'd take it to the drag strip, and I remember we was going to Spartanburg, South Carolina used to have a drag strip nearly downtown. Yeah, we didn't have it now. The community just got rid of it. And we'd take that thing there. And I remember one night, this guy was kind of my crew chief. He said, where are you releasing that thing at? And I said, about 9 or 9,500. And he said, twist it on up there. Okay. And he said, I think it'll take 95 or 10. And he said, just twist it up there. I said, okay. So I noticed when I was pulling up there, we'd always just blip the throttle once. And it looked like water there, so naturally I run through it, blipped that throttle once and that's it. So I got up there to leave, and my crew chief standing right over there, and he says, and I'm telling you, that thing would go, it was past 9,500, and when the lights come down, I just released the clutch, just didn't let that easy, just turned it loose, That thing went straight up, just like that. Well, when you start off on backwards, what happens? You're trying to climb back up on it, and you don't need to get hold of the clutch. So what do? Here's the throttle here, and you just turn it more. And it finally, mercifully, got out there and run out of steam in first gear. And the front end come down on the thing, allowed me to scoot back up on it. I kicked in second gear and we went on again. Came back around, and this guy, my crew chief on the thing, he said, "What in the world was that?" And I said, "What did I run through over there?" And he said, "That's a new traction compound they got." He said, "It's called VHT." I said, "That's amazing." So that caused us to have to put a wheelie bar on it and a slick and some other stuff. Well, the culmination of the motorcycle thing was we got down to a 9:52. That was our lowest time, which at that time, now that's a long time ago, 9:52 was, whew, we thought we was going to get good traction and turn the earth. I mean, it was something else. But it was a dangerous street bike because you was on stuff so quick, just right there. And then a lot of people started building them just as fast, and you'd go out riding on a Sunday afternoon or something like that. Man, it was dangerous stuff on the thing. And after a while, I thought, this motorcycle's faster than I am on reflexes on the thing. I mean, it can, this would get you hurt. So I said, I better get out. I swore off the motorcycle. Sold all my stuff to this guy, Randy Fisher. He didn't want to buy it, sold that. So I got back to the cars. Well, been a lot of advancements made in cars and equipment all coming to that point. Now, there was, I went in conjunction with a couple of guys 2 or 3 times. One to drive one week, another to drive one. And we got down, a couple of the cars we had was in the low 9s, high 8s. And they had like these quick rod and straight rods and all like this, And I tell you, it does cost a lot of money to go fast, whether you be on a motorcycle or in a car or whatever on the thing. But fast forward till today, and I'm gonna try it again. And you may be saying, "Man, you're too old to be trying this stuff again." No, I'm not gonna do it on a motorcycle. No, motorcycle's out. I've got some cars here that I think's capable of getting in probably in the high 7s, low 8s. It's my goal on most of them, is to be to there. And your reflexes do go away some, but you can keep them sharp enough to work. And you just pay attention to what you're doing on it. And I'm not saying it's going to guarantee you not to have a wreck, because some of the sharpest guys I know have wrecks, as you well do too. But it's in along the way, some of the parts you collect and stuff, the people that you meet. I had the privilege of meeting this fella. One time, me and George Packard went up to Amarillo Dragway, and he said, "I want you to meet this guy," and said he's got a unique part on his car. And I said, "Really, what's that?" And he said, "Well, I'll show you." So we go over there, and Carol Cottle's his name. He's got a 55 Chevrolet, and he's up under the hood working, which, briefly, think about this. When you go to the drag strip now, well, I used to when you go to the drag strip, hood's up, people's under there working on stuff, And now you go to the drag strip, hood's closed, they got the laptop sitting on top of the car, tuning. Oh well, so it's different. Well, I walked up there to Carol and nobody had introduced us or anything, and I'm just standing there looking. And I looked down and I thought, what in the world is that? So I asked him, I said, "If you don't mind my asking," I said, "what is that?" And he said, "Well, really, I wasn't going to show that to any people this weekend." He said, "It's a new experimental thing." He said, "It's called a roller rocker." That's the first thing I'd ever seen. That's way back somewhere in the 60s. And it was a roller rocker on these. I think the ones he had were made by Harlan Sharp maybe, and then Crane made some, and there's different people that made them on the thing. And of course, it just puts your ratio, corrects your ratio on the thing, and you can up it or down it. And yeah, I remember seeing that. and he had the 55 he had was extremely fast automobile. So that was just adding fuel to the fire. And then I got a 55. I was living out in Texas when I got out of service. Well, I moved out to Midland, Texas, and that's where my friend George, he had a 55, and I pal around with him a lot. And it has, I'm probably as much amazed by those things are kind of like, they're kind of like the Supra, if you will. It's just kind of one of them shape and configuration of that car. The same applies to the shape and configuration of the Toyota Supra. Not some getting hung up on old stuff on the thing. You just have a unique shape about them on it. And that's what drawn me to. And I've got one sitting over there that's one of my project cars, or this is my next project car is 55. And then the Victor, who owns the drag strip over here, is doing the SC for me. Because I told him I was going to do one. He said, well, let me do one. He said, you evaluate and see what you think. So that's probably, I mean, that's roughly, that doesn't fill in all the details on the thing. There's stuff that I've skipped or whatever on the thing, but a lot of people I met along the way. And there's so many people that gave me so much help. But you know, back in my very, very early days in it, here's some of the people that I met. My dad told me one time, he said, a friend of ours in the community, his name was Dick Bowens, actually Richard's his name, and he knew a lot of the racing community around there because not too far from our house at that time was a half-mile dirt track, old red clay mud. You'd come home from that and you'd try to tell your parents you didn't go to that race, and they're like, ha. And you'd just be the color of the dirt over there, you know. Well, they finally paid, but well, anyway, at that race, why, the people that you meet, I mean, this was in the days when Richard Petty and his dad and a lot of their family would drive up from a little town called Randleman, which is kind of out down on the coastal down there. Then you had people like Cale Yarborough and Leroy Yarborough, and there weren't no relations, had last name the same, but didn't. And then a lot of the old racers, that was back when they raced Hudson Hornets. There was many different cars and stuff on it. A lot of flathead racing. And that was some of the first engines that I worked on was Ford flatheads. That was before they had the Chevrolet overhead valve engine. Well, anyway, Dick Bowens told me one time, he said, I was asking him if I could get in with a shop we had, and he said, well, I can get you out here, and I said, let me think about it. He said, I'll get you in one of these race shops. And I said, all right, that'd be great. So there was probably, well, you had Richard and Leo Jackson, but I wasn't quite in their category yet to get a job with them. Them guys were, whew, man, they were machinists extraordinaire. And there's several others on Airport Road there in Asheville. And he said, there's a guy out there called Banjo Matthews. And he said, he's a little stern, but he said, I can get you a job. He said, well, we don't prestige things. He said, you start out sweeping the floor. He said, if he likes you, you start giving you jobs you can do, and it just adds two things. And I said, hey, that's fine to me, I'll do it. So, and then, so I did and got the job there and like I say, started out sweeping floors, cleaning out the tanks and all like his. Well, anyway, he started introducing me then, and he done a lot of chassis work there for the NASCAR guys in the early days. Then he introduced me to a fellow named Ben Barnes, who was my first engine trainer. And then Ben introduced me to a fellow, Fred Miller, and he was my second engine trainer on it. Unbelievable guys, just unbelievable, and the mark they made in the automotive world. And I look back on that and I think, wow, it's kind of amazing. And then I think back now, and I'm kind of like the movie The Last Man Standing, because most of these guys are passed on, gone on, you know. Anyway, so it's, but what contributed to me during all this time was you couldn't have bought that education. I mean, it was just so happened that at certain times you got to be with this, and certain times you got to be with this, and certain times. And Ben Barnes used to make all the engines for this fellow Jack Ingram, who was known as Iron Man Jack Ingram. and he was the Grand National Champion for years. A little track he ran down on the river, but he ran all over the USA, and that was the kind of the bedrock of the community that I was in. And then you get to meet a new driver or whatever on the thing, and be in the company of them seemed like just about every week or so. And after a while, it's so nice to have one of them call out your name, and you think, hey, man, he's talking to me. It's kind of like now. I get to see some of you guys out here, and it really warms my heart. It really does. When you guys say, hey, Sam, and now, I may not know you, don't get me wrong here, but when we have communication through our electronic world here, and I'm at a track and see you on a thing, please come out and speak to me. I like that. That's very nice. Tell me where you're from. If you looked at any of the videos or whatever on the thing, anything that I could ever do for you guys, all you got to do is tell me. And I've got a multitude of videos coming out, more of the, I do a lot of how-to videos, like for the, I have a lot of trainees in the area that own either detailing businesses or they want to go into it. And I said, well, I'll do and I do a little training class. I usually restrict it to about 10 to 12 people. And it's a how-to, you know, and it go down as basic as how to wash your car, how to clay bar a car, how to do windows the right way on a car, how to shampoo things, how to cut and buff. It's probably 40 or 50 subjects just of stuff, and why should I use this product versus this product on the thing? Well, don't tell me the name of the product. Tell me what it's doing or what you want it to do, and let's look at it from that standpoint. Because I'm not a product slammer, but I will tell you on some of these products, if it will do what you're looking for, if you tell me what you're looking for it to do and what product you've got, I can tell you pretty quick if it will or will not do what you're looking for. Now, plus I've got coming out maybe 30 or 35, and it is truly how-to videos. I done one yesterday on a cut and buff, and it's, well, it just gets down to what does cut and buff mean? How do I do it? Is it a benefit to me? What's some of the things I do? And I tell people, none of this stuff is easy, and I won't try to make it out to be easy, but you want to have the proper equipment to do it. And I tell them, you know, make sure you've got your paint gauge, because if you just sit in on one, your next guy you call might be the painter, and you don't want to be painting one of these cars. So that's, but I mean it every day. I mean, I don't say, okay, I've detailed a car. I mean, I'm not a detailer, okay? But if I'm going to say, if Cletus brings one to the shop over here, and it's one he wants done, or it's one for him, I mean, I do a complete detail on it, correct the paint, all I can. But it's not, that's not my vocation, if you will. I like to get it for whoever the customer is. On all of our giveaway cars, the day before they come in to get it, I get to spend the last day with it. I go over completely over the whole car, and then they come and get it, and off they go. So, but back to my point, if I see at these events something, please come out and tell me hello. I won't bite. I'm way too old to bite, okay? So that'll do this one for now. After you've watched it, give me some thoughts on it. Hey, I like this, don't like that. More of this, less of this on the thing. You talk too much, talk too fast, whatever on the thing. Yeah, give me some hints on the thing, because it's just me, you know. So I'll be talking to you guys a little later on.